All right. Good morning, or afternoon. We are at noon right now. So hello, 7th. Hello, 8th grade. Thank you for adjusting your schedule today to be here for your very own chapel. We've moved our 5th and 6th graders out for a little bit. But today we actually have a group coming in from Teen Challenge to just present to you, to speak to you guys today. And it felt like something that I think would be impactful for you guys, especially as the upper middle school. That's what I'll call it. Especially as we wrap up and get closer to the end of the school year here. The content wasn't really specific for those 5th and 6th graders, so we have them at our chapel later today. So if you guys could, I'd love for your full attention to be with our wonderful guests for today. Let's pray, and then we'll jump in. Lord, I just thank you for today, God, and just thank you for this group of students here and the opportunity that we have to hear from Teen Challenge today, Lord. And Lord, I just pray a blessing upon their message. Help our hearts to be ready to take in what you have for us today. Help our ears to hear what you have for us. We pray all these things in your name. Amen. All right, so I'll turn it over to them. There you go.
Oh, hello, my name is Nick, and
I'm Tiffany.
Hello, guys. So we are here from Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge, and we're going to talk about addiction, substance use disorder, vaping. How many of you guys know somebody that vapes? Yeah, usually it's everybody. So, it's amazing just how common it is. We also go by Know the Truth, and we're a prevention program. Tiffany and I are both what you call youth prevention specialist, YPS. She works in several different schools. I work in 2 middle schools and 2 high schools in Chisago County. So I get to meet with kids that are impacted with substance use disorder. So, all right, we will start the presentation. Content warning. We put this up here just to let you guys know, as part of this process, Tiffany will share her personal story with addiction. Both of us are in recovery, which means we've both had to battle addiction in our life, and we will share some of those details. And if at any point you guys, it hits too close to home or anything else that may be triggering, just raise your hand and we can see what we can do. Next slide. This is our anonymous tech support number, and I know you can't take your phone out right now, but if you do need this or want this number, come speak with us after. This is completely anonymous. Do we know what anonymous means? Yeah, it means we don't know who you are, where you are, or what, and if you text this number and say, hey, I have a friend that started vaping and I don't know what to do or know what to say, that's just one example of some of the texts that we've seen. So feel free to ask us after. Next slide. All right, let's take a minute and imagine what your future will envision. We have anybody here what would you like to do after you get out of high school? Can we get anyone to share what their dreams are? Yes. Okay, be a pastor. Engineer. Marketing. Okay. IT. Okay. You guys. Yep. Please. Yes.
I see you over there with your hand. Author. Wait, we got this lady in red right here. graphic designer.
Yes, that's awesome. You guys are way better than the older kids we just had. So thank you for participating more. Yeah, and this, we put this up here just as a small example. Like when I was your guys' age, my goal would be to get out of school for that day. And if I were to do something like get detention, that would, stop me from getting to go home at the end of the day. So the point is that we want to think about where we want to go and what we want to do, and we also want to know that the choices that we make today will impact whether or not we get to do some of those things, right? So it's just important to have an idea of where we're going and what we're working towards, because we don't want to just get to a point where we're just kind of existing, which can happen, and it's not the end of the world, but it's very important to have a goal to work towards. So next slide. All right, influences in your life. Okay, can we get some examples of what influences you guys?
I'm gonna come around with a microphone just because.
Literal influencers.
Yes.
My dad.
Parents?
Who else? Anybody else on this side? I'm getting a workout.
Fantasy and books. Basketball.
Basketball. Anybody else? Okay, I'm coming. You can meet me halfway too. No, I'm just kidding.
Media that we consume.
Media. Okay, like utilize what
One more.
People in school.
Your brother? Okay, I couldn't squeeze through
Yeah,
there.
so we have up here music, sports, family, teachers. It's important to understand that what we put into our brain is going to have an impact on us. Like, for me, there's certain music that I used to listen to that I can't anymore. Like, there's certain types of hip-hop music, even country. Like, I was listening to the radio yesterday, and I was like, this guy has mentioned whiskey like 50 times in this song. And, in the moment, it's not that big a deal, but if I continue to listen to only songs about drinking whiskey, chances are that may have an impact on my overall well-being one day. So it's just important, and I know that the more we listen to positive and upbringing things, the better. Also, sports, it's awesome to be a part of a team where the overall goal is to, run faster, score more points, do better, and having a community of people that are going to continue to, I guess, work with each other to, get better. Family is big, and a lot of times family can have positive and negative influences on our life, right? And it's okay. I mean, we don't get to decide or choose what family that we're born into, and we all have things that are positive and negative in our family. It doesn't matter where or who you are. And then teachers. It's important with teachers that I don't believe that regardless of how you feel, I used to believe that when my teachers woke up that morning, they'd say, I'm going to make Nick's life hard today. And I don't think that's the case. I think even though I felt like that at times, I think it's important that we just have faith in our teachers and in our people that are taking care of us and know that they want what's best for us. So, next slide. Okay, what's the first one? Okay. Yes. So, I like to think about a social media. Yeah, is that WhatsApp or phone? I don't know, but okay. The point is that I like to think of this as like a tool, right? So if I have a saw, I can use it to build something, right? But if I have a saw, I can also use it to cut my finger off, okay? So that analogy I like to use when it comes to social media. And what is our algorithm sharing with us? What are we liking? Right now, my TikTok is just pictures of people making their cat dance, like to music. And that's okay. That's my feed. That's what I like. If I was your guys' age, my algorithm would be like vaping tricks or college parties or these other things that I thought was cool. Growing marijuana, right? Those are some of the things I thought were cool when I was younger. And once we start to click on anything or like anything, it's going to continue to feed us these things. So right now, we can use social media to learn about survival in the wilderness, to learn about a lot of other good educational things. We can also use it to feed our brain with a lot of stuff, right? Like we never see anybody on Facebook post about their meetings with their probation officer, right? They post about the parties they were at and how fun it was. So we got to remember too, it's very one-sided. It's not like anybody ever goes on there to update people about how horrible their life is now that they're drinking again, or things like that. They just put on the good, positive parts, and that's not real life, right? So, and they've also had a lot of studies recently done with just that short-form content and the doom scrolling and just how it can really, really affect our brains, the way that we feel and affect our, like, dopamine release, right? Like, if I'm having a bad day and I watch somebody making their cat dance, that really gets me in a good mood. But it also makes it a little harder for me to start to get the same mood from just everyday interactions because I'm almost dependent on TikTok for some of these, these little spurts of, like, dopamine and joy that we get from these silly videos. And again, it's not the end of the world. And you're not going to all of a sudden develop an addiction because I have TikTok or anything like that. It's just, if we look at substance use disorder, it's not any one specific thing we can put our finger on and say that's the cause. It's a bunch of small and seemingly insignificant decisions that we can make that can start to end us down the wrong path. So next slide. What are some facts you guys know about drugs?
Take it easy on me, okay? You can yell it out, and if I met you with the mic, then you get the mic.
They're addictive.
They make you happy.
Yes, they can.
Sometimes when you're addicted to drugs and try to get off of them, you're on them for so long, and you just go like one night without them, you might die.
Okay. Did you get that? Anybody else want to yell something out while I'm walking to the other side of the world?
They can be used for good or bad, like fentanyl is used for medical, but also could kill you.
That's a good one.
They fry your brain.
They fry your brain like eggs.
Affects certain part of the mind.
Say that again.
It can affect certain parts of the body and the mind.
Yeah, it affects certain parts of the mind.
I heard that you must only use drugs if you need to use them.
Yep, absolutely. All right. I'm almost scared to give you this.
Some drugs are bad, but some of them can also be used for health purposes, like marijuana. If you have a prescription, you can use that instead of versus taking pills that can really get you addicted versus marijuana that grows from the earth. That can be used as a good prescription-wise.
You know, in 2025, marijuana isn't grown from the earth. We'll talk about that.
It makes you feel better.
Okay, it makes you feel better. Are you guys waiting on the microphone or are you just yelling out stuff? I didn't realize how big this space was until I started moving.
Okay.
There are a bunch of different ones. There's cocaine, Molly, heroin, marijuana, what is that? Jizzle, a bunch of stuff, yeah.
Okay, sounds like you got some good information.
Like, once you take them, if you stop, it doesn't really end. It messes you up for, the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
It's all right to have little amounts of it.
Boo. No, I'm just kidding.
It can change your actions and your attitude.
Okay, it's okay, it was just a joke. This person said it can change your actions and your attitude.
Okay, so yes, you guys know a lot about drugs, and right, like someone said, everybody that gets a hip replacement doesn't leave addicted to heroin, right? So it's important to know, hey, don't go home and dump out all your prescriptions. It's important to know that, like someone shared, drugs can be used for good and for bad. And it's important that we don't once we start taking drugs for the effect, right? Like if I'm prescribed pain medication and I take what's on the bottle, that's okay, right? A medical professional has told me because of my weight and my age and all these other things, this is the amount I should take, okay? So it's always important to listen to the professionals in your life, but if you start taking more than is prescribed because you want to feel the effects or change how you feel, that's when a substance use disorder can start to develop. Okay, next slide. Give it up for Tiffany. She's going to share her story.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. That's enough. Thank you. So that was a lot of extraness. I'm just gonna stand right here and I'm gonna be quick with my story because I wanna make sure that we get to the rest of the slides. So I struggled with the alcohol addiction and I struggled with it for 18 years. The thing with my addiction is I didn't start when I was a young kid. I actually didn't start drinking until it was actually legal for me because I was very focused on my academics and doing well in school. Like I had goals, we talked about that, ambitions and dreams to go to college. I wanted to be a nurse. So I was focused in the 7th and 8th grade. I was doing my thing. I got into a magnet program for high school. I was very successful in that way. I got a scholarship to my college that I wanted, which was St. Catherine, because it was the best nursing school in Minnesota to go to. And, what happened is I spent so much time, I felt like doing all the right stuff, doing what my parents wanted me to do, right? Get good grades, be active, do, community service, go to church, do all of this stuff, do groups and things like that. I did all of that. And so when I turned 21, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm I've been doing the right thing. Like, it's college. I didn't even go to parties until I turned 21. So it's like I turned 21, I started to go to parties with my friends, and then I realized like my grades started to fall because I was having so much fun partying that I was losing track of my school. But I told myself, well, you did such a good job, like, so what if you get a C? Like, I had never had a C before, and it was like, well, it's okay. I started to make compromises, right? I started to compromise my grades, and then I started to compromise my job because I had a little job, and I was like, well, I don't have to go in today because I'll go party with my new friends. All of a sudden, I had new friends who were like, hey, girl, you're so beautiful. Let's go drinking, and, someone wants to take you out for lunch, and, my focus before wasn't on, like, boys and stuff like that, so I was starting to get this attention, and it made me feel good because I never felt like I experienced that. I was finally getting attention from people, girls wanting to be my friends, boys wanting to take me out on dates, and I got stuck in that. And when I got stuck in that, I realized that I was losing. So then I lost my job. I started failing my classes in college, which right now, when you're younger, you don't think about the cost of school and things, but when you get to college and you have loans, because I wasn't making the grades to keep my scholarship, but I couldn't tell my parents oh, I failed my class, I lost my scholarship. I just started taking out loans. And so I just kept losing, and eventually they realized hey, I lost my job. I had to move back home. I ended up dropping out of nursing school. I was a year away from being done. I wasn't able to make my clinicals because I was too hungover from hanging out the night before. So I got depressed. And I felt like a loser. And so with me going into a depression, feeling like a loser, I didn't care anymore. And so I started drinking even more. And it went from just parties to me waking up in the morning, needing to have a drink to get going, me needing a drink at lunch, me needing a drink at dinner, to me just not caring if I went to work or did anything because I just needed to drink all the time. And for a long time, I was in denial. And then I had some situations happen in life that kind of gave me a wake-up call to make me realize, I have a real problem. And the last situation that I had that was really bad, I almost didn't survive it, but I will tell you I had a spiritual experience, and in that situation, I felt like the Lord had came to me and he gave me a message, and he told me to go to treatment and that you will be okay. And I just felt a lot of love in that. It was a dream. And so I felt a lot of love in the dream. And when I woke up, I called Teen Challenge and I went to treatment and I stayed there for a year. I went and did a lot of spiritual cleansing, a lot of talking to the Lord, a lot of therapy, a lot of just getting back in tune, dealing with the things that I had avoided. Like at your age, my father was murdered. Like I never dealt with that, right? So like I had all these things that I was dealing with that as an adult, it affected me. And so I dealt with that stuff, and I went to Teen Challenge in 2020, I kind of get lost on the years because once I decided to change my life and start living for the purpose that I know that the Lord had for me, like life just flies. I just don't keep track of nothing. I just do what I know I'm supposed to do, which is to share my story and to share and to educate young people about these kind of topics, because it might not be on your radar today because you're young and you're like, I don't think about drugs. I don't think about alcohol. I didn't either. But when I turned 21, I did. And so I still ended up on a path that was a dangerous path for me. So, yeah, that's my story in a nutshell. Y'all got any questions or comments about my story? Yeah. How did I overcome it? Therapy. I learned coping skills for me, and when I say coping skills, like I learned healthy things to do when I feel rejection, because that's just the normal part of life. You'll never get away from being rejected. I learned how to communicate with family if I'm having a bad day, or even like my coworkers, if I'm my boss, if I'm having a hard time and I'm feeling overwhelmed in my job, I communication, having someone to talk to, having safe people, and having good coping skills. So like I'm learning to play pickleball on Saturday. Woo-hoo, pickleball. Okay. Any other questions or comments before we move on? Okay, thanks for listening. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, okay, so this is a thing I'm constantly learning. So right now, my tips that I would give you is I do a lot of breathing exercises, and it's not nothing drastic. I just take my time and take deep breaths, because when you're like feeling down and you start to think a lot, it kind of slows it down for you, right? And then other things for depression, when I'm feeling so down and maybe like I don't want to get out of bed or anything, I'll be like, let me go read a book. Like I'll pick up a book, and sometimes the book looks at me and it just be looking at me, and I don't always read it, but I pick it up, and like that's a start, right? Just to kind of move your body. You know, people say exercise. I love to exercise, but I have a problem with getting to the gym. So sometimes I'll just walk, you know what I mean? Or I'll jump rope. Just something to kind of get yourself active, and just know it's not always an instant thing, and that's okay, because it can be depressing to think you're doing a coping skill and it's not working right away. Sometimes it might take a little bit, but it's working. Did I answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Comments? I love these. I love these questions. That's really good. Yeah, if you're depressed, don't get on TikTok. Because don't get on social media. I'm serious. If you're feeling depressed, you probably should stay away from your social media, even though you think like you'll look at positive things. But like Nick said, like you kind of just get stuck in it, and then you don't know how to navigate. So find something to do that's not technology related.
All right, next. Okay, so vaping. Here's some stuff about that. Fake stuff we hear about vaping. It's just flavored air. It won't hurt me. The truth is, it is very harmful to your body and developing brain. Do we know how old you are when your brain stops developing? 25, correct. Yep. And so I've had students come up to me after one of these and go, is that why I can't remember anything? Because, we think of marijuana with like short-term memory loss, but actually they've been able to prove that vaping is almost as bad as marijuana use when it comes to short-term memory. So, especially on a developing brain. It's better than cigarettes. Well, vaping is just as, if not more harmful than cigarettes. Do we know some of the chemicals that are in there? Do we know what formaldehyde is? Do you know what it's used for? You're right, or embalming fluid, things like that. But yeah, it's not good. And otherwise, too, with the coil of a vape, it's metal. And what happens when you're vaping is that coil is heating up red hot and turning the propylene glycol into a vapor. And when that happens, we're inhaling the fumes from the coil, which has cadmium, nickel, tin, a lot of other hard, metals that are in there. And so every time that the coil heats up to basically turn the propylene glycol, which is really close to antifreeze, actually, molecularly. It's not far off of antifreeze that you're inhaling either. So I only smoke with my friends, right? And that was for me too. When I was young, it was like as long as I didn't buy my own or have my own, I didn't count it as bad. So every time I went to the bathroom after lunch in high school, and I knew this kid would have a vape every day, I would go in and ask him. The other thing too, nicotine can lead to trying other substances. So like myself, I started with nicotine, and as soon as I said yes to nicotine, it was just that much easier for me to say yes to the next thing. And also, like in the school I went to in high school, that the kids that were using nicotine were the same kids that were using everything else, right? And so people just kind of pushed me into that group. Even though I was only trying nicotine, I was also pushed into the group of the kids that were, smoking marijuana, drinking, things like that. Do we know why the vape was invented? Does anybody know? Yes, so it was invented to quit cigarettes, but it backfired because one cigarette has about 4 milligrams of nicotine in it, but one inhale off of a loon vape has like 8 to 12 milligrams of nicotine. So we're talking, 4 cigarettes worth of nicotine in one breath. Next, marijuana. Yes, marijuana is just as dangerous as alcohol. If you got caught driving under the influence of marijuana, in the eyes of the law, it's just the same as if you were caught driving under the influence of alcohol. So even though it seems like it's harmless, as far as the law is concerned, you can be punished just like you could as a DWI. It's natural. Nowadays, it's genetically modified to be 5 times as potent as it used to be. Yes. Yeah. So like a lot of people say, well, what about if it's growing? The chances of you getting marijuana from like an actual guy that's growing it naturally is very, very slim. Most of the marijuana that's out there, even in the dispensaries, comes from like grow operations that are pumping chemicals into the soil and making things produce more of the plant to make more profit. And if you were to get marijuana yourself and grow it, chances are even the seeds that you're getting have been somehow altered to produce more product. It's not addictive. It can be emotionally and physically addictive. I think of myself when I was in high school, like going on a family trip with my parents and family and thinking I would be having fun. But in reality, I wasn't that enjoying it much because I couldn't like bring my cart on the plane. So while my family's having fun, I'm just kind of there wishing that I could be home smoking marijuana, and it basically got to a point where my entire day, rotated around my ability to smoke or not. And that's what we mean by emotionally addictive. It means if I can't have it, then I'm not going to be happy about it. Next slide. Okay, where and how often do we see alcohol being marketed? Do you guys see alcohol commercials, or Yeah, I mean, it's everywhere nowadays. So it's one of the leading causes of death too. So it's crazy how often they have advertise it. Okay, alcohol. It's normal and safe to binge drink. Absolutely not. There's lots of reasons why binge drinking is not safe. There really is no safe amount of alcohol, just because even if I'm not drinking enough to cause serious harm to myself, as soon as I have a drink or two, I may make some other decisions that are poor and get myself into a compromising situation, right? Especially when we're underage. So it won't lead to anything else. Not true. I mean, I think just human nature is to, enjoy a few drinks one night, and then the next time we go, we're gonna have more than a few drinks. We're gonna have more than we just continue to want to try to chase that same feeling that we got when we first started. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know when I was your guys' age, they used to smoke cigarettes on TV and in movies and all of that, and they've got away from that. But they still have alcohol out there, and I see alcohol pretty much everywhere I go now, like on the side of the buses downtown and on billboards and Monday Night Football. I mean, everywhere we go, I see alcohol, which is crazy because it's just as dangerous as any other drug. It's just more widely accepted. All right, next. What if we marketed hard drugs like we do alcohol? We like to say the joke, what if it was like Monday Night Football brought to you by methamphetamine, which is crazy to think, but if that were the case, it would become more normalized and we would start to accept it as normal. And actually alcohol is just like a leading cause to any type of like heart disease or car accidents or diabetes. There's a long list of stuff. Next. Okay, why do we think people start to use drugs in the first place? A couple examples of why people start.
So they can numb their pain.
Yes.
To feel better.
Yep. Peer pressure. Yep. Okay. Okay. Yeah, all of those reasons and many more that people decide to pick up drugs or marijuana, alcohol for the first time. I know peer pressure is a big one. And I know that boredom is another big one. So, it's important to start to talk about any of the feelings or any of the reasons why we just shared. If any of us find ourselves in the position of pain, we're in pain, we're bored, we don't feel good, we're depressed, we're anxious, we're any of these things, we start to talk about those with someone else. It can be a friend, it could be a family member. Anytime we start to experience emotions coming up that are uncomfortable, it's just important to let some of that pressure out by talking to someone about it. Next one. Okay, next, we'll skip that. We'll skip this one. Okay. All right, so prescription pills, like I shared already, if you guys have them, take them as prescribed. And here's some of the myths that they're fine to use them to study or de-stress. Prescription pills are very dangerous, like I shared. If they're prescribed to me, that's because the doctor has decided at my weight and age and body type that that's the correct dosage. We don't want to share them because if I do share, let's say I have Adderall and I give you an Adderall, that would be a felony charge that you guys could be charged with. And I could get a felony for giving it to you, and you can get a felony for getting caught with it. So it can cause some serious consequences. Yeah, keep going here with this one. Fentanyl, who knows what fentanyl is? Okay, yes. So we are at the most deadly time in history for drug addiction at this moment right now because of fentanyl. Fentanyl is basically put in any normal looking prescription medications that people buy on the street. 44% of them are laced and fake. And the way they make them now, you could not tell the difference between a real pill and a fake pill because the presses they use to make them are exactly the same. It doesn't really have an odor, it doesn't really have a taste, and it takes a tiny amount to be fatal. So they can put it in anything, just about anything, because it's water soluble. So there are stories I've heard where it's being laced with on marijuana. Also, they put it in other drugs like Molly, cocaine. They put it in all of these different things because it causes the user to feel the effects a lot stronger. And it's even more deadly because 77% of youth overdoses this year. So, and it isn't just people that are addicted to pain pills. People are also dying from overdoses that are trying Molly, that are trying, you know, any other prescription Xanax. Other pills that are being produced are made with fentanyl. And so a lot of the overdose deaths we're seeing aren't people that are addicted to heroin or addicted to pain meds. It's they're overdosing on fentanyl because they're trying other substances that it's laced with. So next screen.
Like 3 minutes. I just want to, first, let's give Nick a hand for like all of this information. Like, and, all right, you guys got some serious, okay. Y'all got some serious clappage situation here. I just wanted to make sure in the last like 2 minutes, if anybody had any other questions or comments before you guys have to get out of here. Just basically summarizing everything is that, you know, you guys all have choices and we just encourage you to be knowledgeable about these different topics, to ask questions, to get help, to talk to your counselors, talk to your principals, whoever it is. If you have chaplains here, if you have someone that's struggling or you're struggling and you want to help someone and you're not really sure how, to maybe not take on your friend's problem and trying to help them, but reach out to an adult who can help give you resources and things like that. You had a question over here? Yeah. Inhalants? Inhalers, like asthma inhalers. If they're anything that's prescribed to you, you're told a certain dosage, right? That's always going to be the healthy thing for you if you get it from a doctor. But if you go outside of what's prescribed to you, you're going into a dangerous place. What about you? So that's a good question. It's not a felony to give someone Advil. However, because of your age and things, I wouldn't just share. If you take Advil, I wouldn't go and share it with your friend. That's something they should go to the nurse for so that they get the proper dosage for them, their body weight, because it could be different. So don't share anything. And yes, you can legally get in trouble being in the 7th and 8th grade. You can get kicked out of school. You could have a probation officer because your kids your age do get probation. So it's just not worth risking all of those legal things which could affect your future, because you guys have great futures that you told us about things you want to do. So we got 1 minute. Any other quick questions that's like burning a hole in the seat? Okay. Well, you guys were really great and we appreciate that. Whoop.
All right. Thank you both. We appreciate that. As we wrap up here, we actually have another chapel. Thank you. We have another chapel with 5th and 6th grade later, so I would like to take a look at the rows as you are exiting. Make sure chairs are straightened. If you've moved any chairs, make sure they get put back. But please straighten up as you head back to your class. Thank you.